from the county.
Mm.
Wish we could've gotten more.
Things are looking up around this joint.
Claiming vested rights.
Okay, so YouTube is doing its thing.
Let's see, oh. See on Facebook tonight? Know why the ugly tree is in it. Why am I here?
We are live. Do you need water? Water?
No, I'm all right.
Hold on, who's recording?
Hello.
Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? On this lovely summer day?
Yeah. Say it, winter's over. This just came in from their attorney.
How are your holiday preparations going?
All right, I guess. Yours,
Mine are insane.
yeah.
Trying to get a bathroom ready before guests are
Wow.
here, and I'm insulating the room.
Mhm.
110-year-old house.
Yes.
Whenever you uncover one thing, you see three others.
That's right. Yeah, mine is pretty old too.
Didn't wanna open the door.
You okay?
Mine was built 1885, I guess.
Oh, tomorrow?
Yeah.
So you probably have all kinds of craziness behind you.
Oh, yes, yes.
We're out here having
A year and a half ago, we had to move out, to move to Danbury.
Dude, you are the honorary chairman.
Yeah.
Dude.
Hello.
Hello.
I have to say I didn't know what to bring, so I left it in my car.
We have a whole packet here.
There's a letter, Nicholas has it, from Ben, Tom, and
Okay.
Ann, that came in after 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So it's not in the, after 4 o'clock today.
Hot off the press.
Hot off the press.
We need a teletype machine sound effect right now.
And we're live streaming too, just in case.
Where's the camera?
There.
Oh, and the green light is on, so we're going already.
Mhm.
Yes.
Came out already.
Yeah, because I had a problem last month, and so I wanted to make sure it was working this time, and so it seems to be working.
It's good to know on the record. I was
Yeah.
chatting with Michael a little earlier.
Mhm.
Didn't know I was.
Yes, we were,
Big brother is watching.
yes.
Always have to check for the green light.
Yes. And you got the email that Fred may not be here?
Yes, at the work.
So Vivian, I guess, is Benjamin Gailey not expected to be here this evening? Is that why he sent a letter?
He didn't elaborate on his email.
And Benjamin is what position? He's an attorney
He-
with
he's-
this.
The attorney representing,
He represents,
client.
148 East Main Street property. Yeah, Main Corner Properties in Sussex.
Including their seeker and zoning is involving. I don't know why he came out. Okay.
Is this, the rest of this is essentially what you emailed to us,
Yes.
the different 9 or whatever the word?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's everything, yeah.
okay.
Karen?
Hello.
Hi.
I don't know if you received the notice from,
Got it.
everyone's
Is
asking for my
This one
turn.
here?
yes, we got, right
Yes,
here.
we do have it, thanks for
Right
checking.
here.
Hi, Lori.
Hey, Diana.
Hi, Lucy, how are you? I couldn't knock
the first time.
All right, shall we start? All right. All right, it's 7 PM. Village of Pawling Zoning Board of Appeals. We have Dave is our attorney, sitting here. Tom Zarecki, member of the board. Ann Hardiman, member of the board. Nicholas Vorleaf, member of the board. Michael Cube, chairman of the board. Karen Labruto, our planner. And Vivian, our secretary, administrator, whatever, yes. All right, would you please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so before we get started, I'd just like to note that this is December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. And I'd like everybody to keep in mind all the service personnel and people in Hawaii who died on this day in 1941. Right. So what we're here for tonight is to take a look at the planning board possibly rescinding the
negative declaration.
Thank you, negative declaration
On this.
for the property at the Tomasetti property for the restaurant. Before we get into this, we need to go into executive session for the purpose of legal advice. And I make a motion that we go into executive session.
I'll second the motion,
Second.
Michael.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All
You're
right.
gonna close the meeting
Close.
and go into,
Yeah.
was that the resolution? Okay.
Yes, close the meeting, go into executive session. All right, so we will adjourn to go upstairs.
I'm leaving at the, everything. Okay.
An email I'm gonna give you for some cameras, or if they have a blank thing, bring one tomorrow.
Excuse me.
No, no problem. last time?
I wasn't here last time.
No, the lawyer and Kurt.
That's when I was on vacation. Sammy called you.
He said the same thing tonight as the last night. He said, what are you doing? I says, nothing. What am I supposed to be doing? He says, good. Can you go down to that meeting? I said, sure. Can't they watch it from?
Not until tomorrow. It's not live stream.
It's not live stream?
That's
I thought she
video.
said it was live stream.
No, it's on YouTube,
Okay.
24, just 48 hours
Yeah,
after.
okay. I thought she said live.
So it's on this whole time, I think, too.
Yeah, it's on now.
From 1993.
Guess it's an artifact. I should check some of the stuff in the plant. Oh, yeah. Well, I meant to tell you, you have an old, tabletop, drill press downstairs in the basement.
A what press?
An old drill press, it's a drill
Mhm.
that you turn down. It's on the side where the water is, and the main water and stuff. It's an old South Bend. That thing might be worth a couple $1,000.
Really?
Just thought I'd tell you, because one of the guys that came through from the Dish Network,
Mhm.
he spotted it. And he's like, hey, what are you doing with that? I said, what do you mean? I said, this is all stuff in this. He says, oh, that's a highly collectible drill press. I said, really? I never heard anything about it. I've only heard of like Delta, a couple of.
You got a highly collectible drill press?
Yeah, South Bend, you ever hear of it?
South Bend Corporation of South Bend, Indiana?
No, it's a South Bend, is the
The
company
brand.
that actually made the
Yeah, no, I never
drill
heard of
press.
it.
Never heard
But
of it either.
I'm the
but-
last guy that would have ever heard of a drill press. So.
Well, no, again, I don't follow like,
In my Jewish family, the drill press did not come up a whole lot.
that was the,
It's not a thing we used. We didn't
that was
say-
maybe what you used to crush the garlic, right?
My grandfather Yossi never said, hey, Shani, go get the drill press.
Yeah.
Never happened.
Never happened.
Nope,
Yeah, it probably never sent you for a drill either.
no.
But it's.
I'm the first person in my family to own a power tool.
Oh, okay.
It's not the one by, the grinder, where he tumbles.
No, it's downstairs. It's in the
In the
basement.
basement.
It's in the basement.
That's what I'm talking about, but not where the.
Underneath, where that fenced-in area, we had moved it right along the side there.
Oh.
You know where you said that antique hardened thing was?
Mhm.
Where it's right along there. But I just happened to look at it and it was at South Bend. But I looked on eBay, just the tag alone on the front of the drill press. Sells up for like $125 for this little metal tag. But the whole drill press, I've seen them as high as like in really nice shape, like totally used, like $2,500. We probably buy all the antiques down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Funny though, if somebody else comes through and sees
I mean,
it.
like I said, I would have never even. Would have never even thought it would be worth,
Mhm.
there's always somebody willing to pay you a couple $100 for something, but. Cause I use the one that's over where the shop is, that's behind that wall. I set that up and I use, when I have to drill something, I drill with that. I don't even know what model that is, I never even paid attention.
Well, that one works. Does the other
Oh,
one?
yeah, it
work?
works fine.
No, but the other one, the press will work too?
The South Bend, I plugged it in, it works beautifully,
Really?
yes.
Can Mark see it?
I didn't mention it.
But you can't drill through steel.
Yeah, it's
That's
actually
what
for
it's
drill.
for.
It's a tabletop model, where the other one that you have is a big, like floor model, goes all the way to the floor.
Mhm.
This one you put on a bench. I have one of my own, it's a Delta table model. It's a little heavier than that one, but,
Maybe Mark needs it upstairs.
I'll ask him tomorrow.
I mean, because he's been making a lot of plates and he's actually impressed me. quite a bit with some of the stuff that he's made, you know, out of a chunk of steel and makes his own pins and,
Well, he fixed the door that goes into the, new warehouse from the back. Whoever hung it did a shit job, and the latch was way off. So I said to him, hey, I gotta take about a half inch out of this. I said, I'm sure you got some tool in here that could really, I said, I got tools, but it'll take me all day to do it. He says, well, I can't do it right now, but I said, I don't need it right now. I said, the door's not closing, so the wind is just blowing in. So he grinded it all out, looks, you know, professional. So machinists are
yes.
a different breed.
That's kind of how I learned as much as I know about in these molds and
Is
how
what
they
from
work.
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, when he explains things, I can understand.
Yeah, he talks normal. I work with some other guys that, like, they talk over your head. And I said, listen, I play with rocks and sticks.
Dumb it down for me.
Yeah, please, give me something I can understand. Cause I've never seen some of the machines that you guys have in that machine shop. You know, he's explained them to me, what they do and how they do it. You know, there's lathes and stuff, but those other big, those are some monster machines.
Yeah, good thing, I mean, he's old school, and those are old.
No, I'm just saying, he's familiar with all those tools, and
It's pretty intricate,
yeah,
yeah.
no, it's special. But like I said, machine shop guys usually, like we have a guy that we go to for the bending machines in Queens. So it was an older Greek guy, he retired, and there's a Hispanic guy in there, and everything's
This is one of my favorite restaurants in LA that I don't think a lot
I
of
love
people
my
know
egg.
about. It's menu
Like one time he
changes every
fixed something,
season
so
and I
he
come
called
here
me,
all the
I
time
was
to
coming
try
to
new
get it.
stuff. It's in
Because we
Venice,
needed
so
it,
just
the
super
machine
close to
was
Venice.
leaking. I said, it's got a little
It is
leak.
so amazing,
It was
but my
almost there.
absolute favorite,
I
the
mean, it was like
cornbread.
such a
Oh my
minor, I
god.
said,
You have to try
every one of these
it.
machines leaks way more than that. This one was leaking like a geyser
The
that I couldn't fix.
cornbread, oh my god.
So I
You have
said,
to try that.
we'll take it as
So
is,
good.
don't worry about it.
Yeah, they are precise, and a lot of them are crotchety.
Yeah. No, they can't, and they wanna have me. I mean, he was running up the tab on J&A, like crazy. You know, he was going from like a $2,000 job. By the time they were, Mike Strauss called me, you gotta get over there. He's up to like 5,000 already. I want to know what the hell he's doing. And I used to say, no, we don't need that, no, we don't need that, no, we don't need this. I mean, there's certain things, yeah. But it don't, I used to tell the guy, it don't have to be perfect, these guys are, I said, the machine are beat to death on the jobs. They go to the job, they're all painted clean, cause he has me clean them and paint them, they look like they're brand new. In 2 months, they come back, even, we sent one to Rocco. Rocco's machines don't bend the grade 75 rebar, all mine do, because I found a hydraulic guy that told me how to do it, it's real simple. But every time he needed a grade 75, he would call Elaine and say, I need to borrow one of your machines. So this one time, I just put a new motor, new pump, the thing was spotless. So Elaine called me, she goes, do we have a machine to lend to Rocco? I said, I got a brand new one. I said, I just redid it. He says, he wants to take it. He said, she should send me a photo of what it looks like now. And then when it came back, it couldn't, I had to bring it on a flatbed, because the rims, the two tires were bent and flat, and it was like someone hit it, it was destroyed. So she said, Michael, do I wanna see a picture of it? I said, no, you don't.
Well, that was the point of having a good picture, to send it to Rocco.
Yeah, but I said, listen, you wanna make an issue out of it and tell him you want something back? She says, is the motor good? Because usually you get it back, the motor's blown. I said, the motor's good. And I said, the pump is good. I said, so it's gonna cost you maybe $1,000 to get it all back the way it was when it left. She says, I don't wanna say a word. I said, okay, no problem.
And that's who you know, you go after your family and shit like that.
Well,
She never nickel and dimed them.
Does he pay rent,
Who?
Rocco, or she just lets him use it for free?
No, he just, we were at the Disney job, doing the foundation. And our machine was the only machine on the job. And Mike called me and then Elaine called me and said, you know, can Rocco use the machine? I said, you asking me? I said, I'm just out carrying stuff here, you know, I take care of the machine. I said, if I talk to the guys, tell them that they gotta make sure they check the oil and stuff, I said, they can use it. I said, so, we worked it, they didn't get a machine for that whole job.
Really?
They used our machine, the whole job.
For free.
For free.
Then he should be referring our business.
I say the same thing, but what can I, you know what I'm saying? It's-
There's only so much I can say.
But this is not the only job that it's been. Anytime when he doesn't bring a
That's a
machine,
tremendous job.
huge, that was huge job. And he had the whole high rise. They were carrying, he had his guys carrying the steel to the basement, because our machine was in the basement to do the bending, and then carrying it back up.
My son was on that job, Anthony.
That was?
For Pinnacle. Mm-hmm.
Never met.
You never met him. He's works in the office, but he was going once a week.
Oh,
He
okay.
loves to be on the site.
Of course. He's young, he wants to, eager. So what did he study in school?
He's an engineer.
He's a, okay, mechanical?
He's going for his PE, civil.
Civil?
Yes, civil, but then structural.
So it's gonna be like Anna Lane.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's having a hard time with the test.
It's not easy. My daughter's a mechanical for the Navy, and she,
But you know, the problem is that he went to 4 years of college, then he got his master's, then he had to work 3 years, and then start to study for the test. He was not in his academic brain.
after the fact.
Yeah, it took him. He's married with 2 kids now.
Yeah, now it's hard. She was,
She was pregnant with him now when she took the test.
oh really?
Mhm.
But my daughter was recruited out of college. And I knew it was a woman thing, they wanted a woman. And then she stayed and got her master's, but they wanted her to join the Navy. And I said, listen, I said, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I said, but if you would have joined the Navy before you went to college, then Papa would have had to pay for college. They would have paid, you would have owed them time. So I said, if you want to join, you should negotiate a bonus for not joining it and being. So she says, really? I said, yeah, talk to a couple of people there, and they're gonna direct you in the right direction. So she decided not to enlist and wait. She got her master's and they came back and then they offered her the position. Anyhow, she started in Philadelphia. And she was in charge of she used to go to all the different vendors that made stuff for the Navy to make sure it was like painted, make sure the facility was up to par. If it was supposed to be a clean environment, it's supposed to be a, you know, whatever. First week there, she was saying, Dad, I'm getting all these bribes. So they're trying to, they're not coming out and saying it, but they're more or less saying, you know.
Between the lines.
Yeah, I said, it could be a test too. So I said, stay straight and don't be playing around, because
You go a
only
long
got-
way that way.
Right, I said, you're a young woman, I said, stay on the straight and narrow, do the right thing, and you can write your own ticket.
Right, just trying to make a quick buck, always backfires.
Always. But then she applied for all the promotions she could. She's a real go-getter. And she got out to San Diego.
That's where she is now,
Yeah.
right?
The last card I seen, she was advanced launch and recovery, F-16, F-18.
Wow.
Because they go get every plane that goes down. Out in the water.
Mhm.
No matter how deep it goes, they'll send the Navy diver to go get it and hook it up and bring it to the surface. They don't leave anything.
You can't do that.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm just surprised, because you own the whole coast of San Diego, like they do all the training and stuff, so there's always a plane going down. You would think there would just be some littered, well, it ain't worth it to get, they go down.
Okay. All right, wake up there.
Oh, sorry. According to Denise earlier, a moment of fogginess. I always think it's that.
I am, yes.
There's another Denise that I do. It's slipped up.
All right, thank you for your patience. Just to go back a little, the reason we're here is because the planning board issued a secret determination on this project, the restaurant on 46 East Main Street.
Should we close?
Oh, yeah,
executive
good
session?
idea, good, Vivian, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we
Oh,
got,
we're making a motion to close the executive session?
yeah, we gotta close the executive session. Make a motion to close the executive session.
I'll second that, Michael.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, executive session is closed. Okay, so,
Reopen the,
we're gonna reopen the meeting. And there was, planning board made the secret determination. Now,
why don't you make a motion just to reopen and?
yeah, all right, I make a motion to reopen the meeting.
I'll second it, Michael.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting is reopened. So,
You might wanna also say that no resolutions were.
yeah, no resolutions or decisions were made when we were upstairs. All right, so, what we're going to talk about this evening is the possibility of the planning board rescinding its seeker declaration. We're just going to talk about it and see where that goes. We're doing this in public. The public is going to be able to make comments if they want, and we'll see where we go from there, what we want to do about this, about the seeker determination that the planning board made. All right, so first, before the board talks, I think Karen, would you like to open things?
Sure, I'll just talk you guys through a little refresher on the seeker analysis. So seeker takes into account impacts on, for instance, land, geological resources, historic and architectural resources, surface water, groundwater. But pertinent to this changed amended site plan is impacts to community plans and community character. And so, when we look at potential significantly adverse impacts to community character, we're looking at things such as whether a project may be inconsistent with the predominant architectural scale and character. I understand that many of you all feel that the applicant demonstrated, through submission and verbal presentations, that their project would be consistent with the architectural guidelines, which are voluntary, but that even still, they said that they would be consistent with those that are in the master plan. And, there have been concerns raised that the amended site plan may not hold true to that. So that's one of the seeker analysis resource areas that would come into consideration as part of a rescission.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, consistency with the local land use plan. The master plan has many things to say about that corner of Pawling. And, the project was approved based on understandings and the plan presented. And so that's another consideration, as we move through this process.
Thank you. All right. All right. Anyone on the board have any? Nicholas, I think you have some thoughts on this? Like to
Yeah,
share?
Michael, I feel like this particular project has had some significant changes from the original plan that was presented to both us and the planning board. And I'm actually in support of the planning board revisiting their decision for a negative seeker determination. I think it's all right to reopen this and rediscuss it, especially since, as Karen read, some of the language is very specific about things fitting in. I think that this property is in a very key area of our village. And I think that there's especially some extra responsibility perhaps in making sure that it is a gateway project that fits in with the character of our village. I think since it has veered, the planning board revisiting this is completely justified, and I'm in full support of that.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. Ann, Tom, anything?
I agree with Nicholas. We both wrote letters in support of this to the boards, our board and the planning board, and are disappointed, I should speak for myself, disappointed in the way the project has developed and is not really in character with the village that we expected or anticipate or would like to have. It's disappointing, and I would like to see us all arrive at something that is comfortable and happy for everybody. That creates a project. I remember saying at a zoning board meeting way back when this project first started that I support the idea, and I think lots of other people do, of a restaurant on that site. But it's a restaurant that we want to feel fits in with our village. And this project, to me, has some serious flaws.
Thank you, Ann. Tom?
Yeah, as we're here tonight to make a public response to the planning board's decision to rescind the seeker review. The project has gone off in a different direction, and it's important that we let the public know if we support and how we feel about their decision for the project. I agree with Nicholas's recommendations and opinions about the site, as well as Ann. I think we've talked about the topics extensively, and we need to just move forward and do something positive for the community.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, I'll just give a few remarks too. It was mentioned about the gateway. That site was supposed to be the gateway. It was 30 years ago. I sat with Andres Duani when he was here, and Earl Slocum was there too when we were talking with Andres about how things were going to develop and about gateways. Andres brought up about gateways, and there were like 4 or 5 main gateways to come into the village. That intersection was the main gateway. It was supposed to be the most attractive. There were different plans that Andres had for that, including some large stone pillars and things. I don't know if that would have been practical. It might have been a traffic hazard, but we wanted that site, that corner intersection, to be the best looking intersection that it could possibly be. And at the time, there was a nice small restaurant there. It doesn't mean that the restaurant has to be small. It could be a larger restaurant. And the Tomasettis came along with the idea of building a larger restaurant. Okay, we saw the plans that were developed, and they looked great. The planning board liked them. We liked them. I think everybody that saw the plans liked the plans. It was supposed to fit in with the village. It was supposed to draw out aspects of the village, of like the cane house, the residential houses in the area. It wasn't supposed to have a roof that looked like the type of roof, you'd see that kind of roof maybe in Slovakia, and they have roofs like that there, or in South America. It's not the type of roof that you see in the village of Pawling. The rest of it doesn't look like it was supposed to. And things just really went off the rails, didn't stop when the stop work order was issued. It's not the gateway, it's nowhere near the gateway that it's supposed to be. And so I'm really in support of having the planning board revisit this, because things did not turn out the way we were led to believe. Does anybody else have anything you want to say? 'Cause at this point, I make a motion to open this up to the public, and if anybody in the public has any comments.
I'll second that motion, Michael.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Mr. Goldberg,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I'm gonna start with a little levity, just to say,
That'd be good.
could everybody who's been to Slovakia in this room raise their hands?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you like the roofs there?
How what?
How do you like the roofs there?
How do I like the roof?
Yeah.
Not an issue.
The roof's there.
This roof or that roof, and so, guys, you all know me, and I'm gonna try to do something that's very difficult tonight, which is I'm going to try to explain to people who I like and whose thought processes I respect why I believe they are wrong. And so bear with me, and I apologize for this because, everybody knows if there's one thing I hate, it's disagreeing with people. I love agreeing with everyone, but I do want to make some long remarks to make sure that the other side of this is heard. Because you are in the unusual position of being both represented by the exact same attorney who is the planning board attorney. And so before I begin my remarks, I will just say that there are two things that I would point you to ask your attorneys about. One is the concept of original jurisdiction, and the other is the case law of Kaufman versus the Village of Glen Cove. And you might want to make a note of those because they relate to whether or not the Zoning Board of Appeals can hear something that's not being appealed by another party. There's no one appealing this, and it's like a boiled egg or grilled cheese, it's in the name. So I appreciate this public forum, but I want to be clear, the case law has clearly indicated that this is not a legitimate hearing. Having said that, let me make my remarks. And again, thank you in advance for your patience. So very first, I want to make clear why I'm commenting tonight. I'm here only to discuss the specific matter in front of you. So it is very important for me to assure every single member of this body that whatever disappointment you have in the way the building was constructed, it doesn't exceed my own disappointment. I'm the person that signed the site plan. And like you, I was unhappy about the field changes that were made, and I expressed those concerns, sometimes to many of you, during the build-out. But those concerns, board members, are not at issue today. They are not at issue today. Those concerns will only be inside the scope of the zoning board's jurisdiction when a decision has been made about the original site plan. And please hold that idea in your head. There are remedies to the divergences that the builders made, and there should be consequences. But as you must absolutely know, they are not the matter at hand. As I'm sure you know, the matter at hand is the rescission itself. And to treat your current concerns as a factor in your deliberations of whether or not a neg deck can be rescinded is both reasonable, but at the same time, very problematic. And I'll tell you why. What is at issue here for you guys as the appellate board is one simple question. Specifically, can our planning board rescind a negative declaration that they issued on December 8th, 2020? And to properly answer that question, you need to only consider the following. Does any planning board have the right to rescind a negative declaration after a site plan is approved? Okay? So I want to review two areas. One is statutory, and one is a part of the fact pattern, and please bear with me. First, the statute. The relevant law here is 6 NCRR Part 617. And the law has two facets for you that are critical as an appellate board. The first facet is in the definition of section 6172 subsection B. It defines an action, I'm going to use these quotes, as activities that require new approvals from an agency. And in this case, of course, the agency is the planning board, and the actions, right, can, for a planning board, again, original jurisdiction, can only be serving as a lead agency and seeker, which they did, and site plan approval, okay? Because those are the only two actions the planning board has jurisdiction over. And I can tell you, as you know, those actions definitely did happen in December of 2021, right? I know that because I presided over them, and I signed the approved site plan. And the planning board does not have any jurisdiction over any other actions like field changes or the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So without any doubt, when the word action is used here, it means one of those two things, either functioning as the lead agency and or the site plan approval. The second facet that I want you to pay attention to is found in section 6177, subparagraph F. It's a part of the statute that's really well known to practitioners in municipal law and related law, and all people in planning. And it's one which, again, hand on Bible, I have discussed numerous times with members of Daniels and Porco. This part of the law says that at any time prior to its decision to undertake, fund, or approve an action, a lead agency must rescind a negative declaration when substantive, and then it goes on, changes are found. So as we see, the relative action of the planning board was unambiguous. It was one of two things. It was the completion of seeker and or it was the rescission, it was the issuing of the negative declaration. Two, the fact that it was taken, that the action happened, this is not prior to an action, unambiguous. And finally, three, because the phrase prior to approve is the sole qualifier in this statute for when the negative declaration must be amended. It's not can be amended, it must be amended. When you see that, the only conclusion that you could reach from a statutory perspective, right, is that there is no legal justification to rescind the original negative declaration at this time, okay? And make no mistake about it, guys. When a statute includes an obligation, like the word must, and a time qualifier, like prior to approve, it removes ambiguity, okay, about performing a particular action at any other time. It must, and it's before. That's a matter of what's called construction, okay? That's the way the law is constructed. And to be sure, I spent a lot of time today looking for any evidence of an alternative construction, which is essentially, an alternative construction is evidence of the statute being interpreted any other way. Because sometimes things are, right? They're ambiguous. I look for anywhere, anytime, any place. There is not a single example in case law, okay? And municipal law, the laws that you guys deal with, municipal land use law is one of the most argued laws in the world. If there were, again, an example of case law, I imagine that the village attorney would produce it to support this happenstance of an alternative construction where it could happen not after an action. And anybody that studies law, or has been to Slovakia, or practices law, right, will tell you that the absence of an example, especially in a broad area like this, like land use, almost always indicates that no one has ever had any inclination to test the statute for ambiguity. And that, my friends, is because this statute is not ambiguous, okay? Now, I could argue, and I suppose somebody could argue, that the activities of the builder and the building inspector rose to a level where the very approval of the site plan would be annulled and voided. I could argue that. And the action still hasn't happened. But that would be a stretch. And I want you to understand something very important, and then I'll leave the statutory part of this behind. If you were to believe that argument, that the annulment can only be done by a declaration of the planning board, right? You should ask, why did the planning board not, you should ask your attorney, why did the planning board not make such a declaration? Why not? And I can tell you why not, because I've discussed this again with a variety of municipal lawyers. It's because rescinding the site plan could, not would, but could trigger an immediate Article 78. And that would lead to a written documentation of precisely the factual record that the village doesn't want anybody to focus on. Not me, not you, no one. And specifically, that factual record will show that, of course, the builder was wrong, very wrong, at many turns. but that all along and at the same time, the building inspector never referred the changes that were made in the field back to the planning board. Okay? Never. Never. Which is where the narrative aspect of this comes in. Because we all know that the building inspector, as the record shows, while urging the builder to avoid, right, things, right, just never, never actually called them in. And as an example, and I'm happy to affidavit to this, I urged the building inspector to make a formal referral before a single roof tile was placed. Before a single roof tile was placed. Okay? But that didn't happen. That is just what they call an inconvenient truth. Because we had an enormous period of time after an action when each and every one of the changes that you are concerned about and you spoke about was known. It was known to every party involved. But the narrative reveals even more. So we're off the statute and now the narrative. And here again, there are two facets. Okay, first, CBA members, I appeal to your good judgment and I ask, do you really think the option of rescinding the negative declaration was never brought up, never mentioned by anyone on the planning board? Is it possible that during the months of back and forth on this property, prior to December 21 and the stop work order, no one considered that plan? No, it is not possible. In fact, during a long executive session of the planning board, and before anyone interrupts me and says that I can't say what happened in an executive session, let me assure you that I can say anything that happened in our executive session except for statutory private things, and it's my right to free speech, okay? During that long executive session, then member and now chair, Mr. Pfister, posed the question of possible rescission. He was told immediately by the village attorney and by me that that was not possible because no matter what, quote, no matter what the changes were, the site plan had been approved. What was true then is true now, okay? And I have the contemporaneous notes from that meeting. The second facet is this. If you guys were to go back and review the minutes of September 13th, that planning board meeting, you would find, of 2022, you would find that the village attorney was at the time absolutely insistent that the builder deliver a complete and amended site plan, right, to the planning board, okay? He was vociferous about it. He went on and insisted repeatedly that it was necessary in order to relook at the project in its entirety, which we all agree may be necessary. He got his way, and the paperwork was submitted. And so I ask you, why would the village attorney be so adamant about, quote, an entirely new plan if he could have simply advised a rescission of the neg deck at that time? The answer is obvious. It's because they knew, as they did a year prior, as they did a year and a half prior, as was explained by the village attorney during the process when we were all upset about the changes, as was explained during that special meeting of September 30th, and as was probably explained at some point in some planning board meeting after I left the planning board, that neg decks cannot be rescinded after an action. And that's why the latest action of the planning board is egregious. And it is just introducing a delay tactic that adds what's called futility to this situation. It's just hard to understand because we all want the same thing. I know you do, I know the applicant does. So what has happened here, guys, is clearly unfortunate, okay? It's horrible, but it's also really clear. The developer repeatedly acted improperly. And at the same time, unfortunately, the building inspector failed to coordinate the significant changes and get approvals from the planning board. That's where the system broke out. And that's bad. It's wrong, two wrongs. It's a shame. But we all must agree that even though there must be consequences to that, there must be remedies. The remedy, guys, is not to ignore the law, because a third wrong doesn't make two wrongs right, okay? And what that means is this, guys, should the building be modified before getting a CO? Of course, okay? You know that the builder has made efforts to do that. Should the planning board be part of the approval process? Absolutely. I don't know, can the new changes undergo a brand new seeker process? A new negative or positive declaration? Perhaps. Should they undergo a new look at variances when that time comes? Perhaps. It's up to your attorney. But none of that is the matter at hand. The matter at hand is the legality, the lawfulness of the recession of a neg deck after after an action. That's it. And as I've demonstrated, that unfortunately is not lawful by the statute. And frankly, no independent or responsible attorney would disagree. In fact, the law firm advising you on 3 separate occasions that I can think of, and my research will probably show more than that, the law firm that's advising you over 3 different attorneys at 3 different times, one of whom is here, 2 of whom are not, agreed for a very long time. So I'm going to circle back to where I began, because I'm worried about one thing. And I'm going to say here, my only agenda, guys, is that the right thing is done with regards to what lawyers call the instant action, the thing that's in front of you. And if anyone in the village tries to discredit me or say I'm biased, that's because they have something to lose, not because I have anything to gain. I want to see this building change just like you do. But I don't want to see us fall into this pattern of ignoring the rule of law. So I'm going to urge you to meet again, to overrule the rescission of the neg deck, and to let this action proceed on another pathway. And I thank you so much. I know I went on for a while. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But if not, I'll be happy to send a copy of my remarks to Vivian so you can all review them. And again, I urge you to bring up that case and the concept of original jurisdiction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve, for your
Thank you, Steve.
comments. Anyone else?
Yes, I just have a few things to say. I was notified about this meeting to the wrong address. I got a certified letter that was addressed to Main Corner Properties, Diana Tomasetti, at 23 East Main Street. That is the building on East Main Street, where every other time you've had to send me a notification, it's always gone to 85 Charles Coleman Boulevard. And as a neighbor to this property, I was not notified about this meeting. The house right next door to the restaurant, in the past, I've always gotten notification to my address at 85 Charles Coleman. So I don't know if any other neighbors received notification about this meeting. I just want to put that on the record. The second thing is that we realize that things went off the rail, as it was said here tonight. And it was not our intention to go rogue. It was just things that happened, the circumstances that happened. We apologize for that, and we have made every effort possible. And you have copies of submission of what we submitted that will bring this building relatively very close to the original drawing. That means painting the roof, painting the brick, and painting the vinyl. And it will look, you have the drawings, or they were sent, they're here. So I don't understand why we're not talking about that we should be negotiating instead of, but it just seems that you guys just want to continue to punish us and take everything, remove this, or take our variances. To what end? To what end? Is this to bring us to the point where you want us to knock the building down? Because that's really not an option. But we can certainly bring it very close to the original diagram, and we can open the restaurant and move on with our lives. But that's not where the village is going with us. We haven't been able to sit down. No one's even told us what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. So it doesn't seem like anyone here is working in good faith, because everything's on the table, and we will do just about everything that was requested. And that other architect that came in and he submitted that big package, all he did was illustrate all of the things that we had done wrong. He didn't offer any remedy. But we had to pay $10,000 for that report, and it didn't serve any of us. So we're just continuing to delay, and to bill, and the finances are just through the roof, and it's a hardship, and it seems like that's kind of what you want. But we are ready to make all the changes that we possibly can, and to really bring it back very close to the original diagram. Thank you.
Diana, I have a question.
Yeah.
I assure you, we don't want to cause unnecessary problems and things, but it's a very difficult situation. And you mentioned that you would be willing to paint the roof. Do you have any estimate as if you painted the roof, how long that paint job would take before it had to be repainted?
Well, it's not actually a paint, it is a coating that is made specifically for that application.
Mhm.
And I do believe that we got a 15-year, warranty with it.
15 years, all right. But otherwise, it's the same tile, but it's going to be, what color, black you
Yes.
painted? Okay. All right.
Like in Serbia. No. In Serbia.
Serbia, yes.
We're
Did you
going
enjoy
around the world
Serbia?
today, thank
All
you
you
guys.
have to do is drive to Queens and Brooklyn.
Anybody else? Sir?
No, that's-
No?
They said it all.
Okay. All right. All right, if,
I just wanna,
Yes.
I had submitted a response to, Mr. Gailey's letter that, posed the same kind of issue that Mr. Goldberg had stated. And, I wanna make sure that's gone to, went to Mr. Gailey and it went to the planning board, and I wanna make sure that you've all gotten a copy and that it's entered into the record. Vivian, you have that, right? And that'll make that part of the minutes and.
Yeah.
Yeah. all right.
Can I ask when you sent that?
About a week and a half ago.
Okay.
So I can tell you exactly when I sent it. Forgot my iPad.
For the purposes of somebody that might want to FOIA that, is that regarding the issue of original jurisdiction and/or this appeal, or some other aspect? I think you mean it's about the.
It has to do with responding really to your issues.
Of,
And,
okay.
yeah, it's very similar. I mean, it's in response to the issue of their legal authority and.
Oh, okay, so it's about that.
November 21st. Are you saying he didn't get it?
I don't remember discussing it with him.
Okay, well, I will,
Did he respond?
nope.
Well, that seems unlikely that he wouldn't
No,
respond.
don't, I mean, listen, I mean, I sent it, I had no reason not to send it, I was responding, it was in response to his letter, I had no other reason to do it.
Is it appropriate for the board to share the essence of that letter with?
Yeah, I have no problem with giving a copy, I mean, we can give a copy out, I don't think there's any reason to read it, but,
Thank you.
Ben Gailey, jbg@jacobowitz.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Vivian, I think she had sent a copy of
I
that to all of us.
copied
Wasn't that part of
another
the packet?
JB.
Wasn't that
also
part of the
JB
packet you
at
had sent to us
Jacobowitz.com.
a few days ago? 'Cause I think I remember reading about, I remember reading Dave's letter. I don't see it with these documents, but there's so many pages, I might be missing it.
I mean, essentially, where I disagree with what's been stated by Mr. Goldberg is, it's a much broader, the action is not defined as a specific approval. An action is a project. And once the site plan was reintroduced to be different than what it was, the project, at the point that the project was approved, the planning board would not have been able to rescind seeker. But once they came back and submitted changes, that project is still on the table. And if you look at, there's just a lot of, and again, there's a lot of support for that in the regulations, actually in the other sections of 617, that make it clear that you don't look at a particular approval in isolation. The intent of seeker is to cover the whole set of activities that encompass what might happen. And here, we have this property, we have this project, and it's not complete, and there's an approval that has to be issued because it's gone in a different direction, and they're looking so that now they don't have, the approval they now have, it doesn't work, because the court has said that it's gotta stop, and it's not lawful, and so, anyway, and I think whoever wants a copy of that should get it.
But I'd also like to state that we do not have to go back to the judge to rectify this. We can really do that in-house. So to sit there, we don't have to go, it
Well,
said,
hopefully,
it's
no,
clearly
listen,
said.
that would be great.
If you
could
could,
get it,
you guys,
yeah.
it's up to you guys to restore our permit and let us go back to work to make it look like it should have originally.
Well, the only thing I'll say, I mean, the court said this is a self-created hardship, and that was very clear. And again, you know, you have your position, I understand it, I respect your position, but respectfully, I disagree. I think the court disagrees. So that. you
No,
know,
the court
you've got it
doesn't
on-
disagree.
Well.
The court doesn't disagree that.
Yes, they do.
Not that we have
Yes,
to
they
go
do.
back to
Well,
the court.
We haven't there hasn't been any action taken at this time to have you do something with the building, because frankly, in good faith, the planning board is trying to work this out. They want to give you an opportunity to fix it. That's the process we're in right now.
No, but we're in the process of rescinding the neg deck.
Well, that's part of the process.
Obviously, you're trying to
Part
go
of the
after the
process.
variances. So that's not negotiating a remedy.
Well, in terms of the variances, that is a right that the board has, but that isn't the purpose of this meeting. And
I don't know
I
what the
don't-
purpose of this meeting
Well,
is.
it's not to do that. I can tell you that, and that wasn't noticed, and it wouldn't, I don't understand how your attorney concluded otherwise, but,
Well, we didn't-
the
we
notice was
don't-
quite clear. It was about, we had the 617 requires circulation to all involved agencies if there's going to be a rescission. And, you know, the prudent thing to do when you get a note, when the ZBA got a notice, was to meet and decide whether to respond to that. And that's what they did, and they gave the public the opportunity to speak, and, now it's.
I don't know if
you
it was
decide.
circulated properly to the neighbors. There's no one here.
Well, the only thing that's gonna, this isn't an appeal, and it's not an interpretation. It's part of the seeker process that 617 requires.
Wait, this hearing is?
Yeah, it's required.
Under
It's
what
gotta-
section? If
Well,
I
not
might
the, no,
respectfully
it's part, you have a provision in seeker that in order to, once an agency rescinds, they have to give, notice to all involved agencies, which
Who's
is
the
what.
appealing or referring agency, if I might ask?
Planning
Who
board.
is the appealing or referring agency to the
It's
ZBA?
not,
in this matter?
this is not an appeal, Steve. This is there was a, you know, this is part of the seeker process. They issued a resolution under 617. There has to be circulation to all involved agencies, and then within 30 days, and the applicant, you know, will have a chance to respond as well, the planning board will consider whatever comments are received, if any, and then
Just
go
to be
from
clear,
there.
what you're saying is that this is being done as a response to the planning board's actions as a lead agency.
Correct. Correct. That's all it is. And there's no action being taken tonight. There's no action they could take. If that was gonna happen, they would have to, you know, they'd have to have like you said, people would have to get notices and, you know, under 712 or whatever that section is, they could reconsider it, but I wouldn't advise doing that at this time, because they're in the middle of a seeker thing, and to not finish seeker before you do that. And again, to me, the alternative to what, if you were right, if you are right, then the alternative to this would be, you know, there's no question under the EFS case and other cases that when you seek to modify an application, there's a de novo review of the entire process. It's not like an incremental, and, you know, Ben Gailey has agreed with me on that. So that isn't gonna save time, that's gonna take time, because you're gonna have to start the whole thing over. You're gonna have to, you know, you can't, if this is a new project, there's no provision for, you know, in the zoning law to amend a site plan. So it's kind of, to me, it's kind of a red herring, honestly, but we're trying to do, you know, unfortunately, if this hadn't all been argued about, we'd be done with this, you know?
Well,
But it's all
appreciate
getting,
that.
you know, it's unfortunate, we tried, and you're complaining about, you know, you've had an appeal, which is certainly you're right, but it's just taking a lot more time on an issue that, you know, and again, as convinced as you are on your position, I'm convinced that that they do have the right to do it. And you know, look at it.
Listen, I
whatever.
respect your opinion. I think that
Okay.
we can both agree that you are taking a broad construction of both the word action and of original jurisdiction.
Take a look at what
I will-
you know,
I
I
will
thought,
very much
that you
appreciate it.
had my memo. It's unfortunate that you didn't, because maybe that would have provided some insight, maybe not.
I'm not an
but,
interested party, I have to FOIA it, and I.
Well, I'm saying, at this point, I mean, everybody's here, I think it's
Yep.
fair enough to give people, you know, a copy, so.
Yep.
So, you're,
All right.
you're,
Thank
now
you.
you're.
I assume there's no more comments from the floor. In that case, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that, Michael.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And public hearing is closed. Does anyone on the board have any more comments?
Well, it's not our position here today wasn't our, as the board, to rescind the seeker, application. Obviously, we would love to see us all be agreeable and work this out. Is our place tonight to get together to, review their decision and to see that it was lawful, or at least we understood the criteria that came to determine why they took the position to rescind that declaration. As a position, that's their board has that ability or to use that in moving forward with the project or just making something happen. I definitely understand and have sympathy for the applicant's words. And I know that we'll eventually try to get everything agreeable. And the efforts that have been made to date that are documented very well in ways to rectify or promote the original plan in as best as possible. There's definitely items that have been mentioned and covered very well that are agreeable, but there are some that are not agreeable. Mostly the roof situation, which is kind of the big, the big statement. But other than that, I mean, we have to keep moving forward, and I can't control how the town, the board finalizes their decision and maneuvers themselves through this process. But we can make an opinion to what and why. We're here to publicly just try to understand the situation.
Thank you, you're clarifying that it's not an
Okay.
appeal, it's simply a review of an action by another agency. I got that, thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. Anyone else?
I did just kind of want to clarify, what are the opportunities for the applicant during this time? So in just rereading the resolution for the notice of rescission.
They have a right to comment,
So
and
the-
and they have, and I think we gave them until December 21st.
So-
to comment.
Yeah, so under the
Second.
now therefore be it resolved, number 4, providing the applicant a period of 30 days to respond as provided above is deemed reasonable by the planning board. So a response essentially to stop this rescission would.
Why they feel, if they agree or disagree, and at that point, the planning board's obligation is to determine to consider whether their determination should be the same. It's kind of strangely worded, but it's not ambiguous. It's basically you either reconsider it and decide not to rescind, or you issue a positive declaration. Those are the choices under the regs.
So is the applicant able to propose additional changes to the project at this point?
Oh, they can always do that, I think.
I'm just
Yeah,
clarifying
yeah,
it
yeah,
so that
yeah,
everyone
yeah, of course,
understands
yeah,
what
they can
is
do- yep,
possible.
sure.
Just trying to understand the process.
I think you already done it.
Thank you.
All right, no one has anything else. I think we all want to see a restaurant there. We want to see the best restaurant that fits in with the village, with the master plan, the way it was originally proposed. That's what we want. And I think the way to get to that point is by following this process that we were talking about tonight, and that we need to support the planning board in their actions I think that's the only way this is going to get done. So, I make a motion that we support the planning board's actions in rescinding seeker and coming up with a.
It's not an appeal, how can you make a motion?
No, the motion is to provide comments back to the planning board as to
This is our
position in
comment.
seeker. They're not making any decisions. It's
Yeah,
just-
it's not a decision, just a.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good clarification, but.
All right,
Would you restate that? what you
I'm
just
not
said?
sure what I said.
Can I just, I mean, I
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
what your prerogative at this point is to, you could say nothing,
Yeah.
or you could say you disagree with their action, and here's why, or you could say you agree with their actions, or agree, or you could do partially, you know, so you just, you know, if you decide to comment, tell them what you think, and
It
then.
doesn't need to be unanimous.
No, well,
We,
no, it wouldn't have
we
to be.
support their actions.
Yeah, well, you could just say that we have, you know, how do you, you know, you've seen the basis for their, I mean,
Mhm.
Karen went through
Right.
the reasons why, things you might consider,
Right.
and are those things, that really you should focus on those things, and do you agree or disagree with her analysis? And if so, that could be, yeah, I don't think supporting the planning board is really that's not what you're doing, that's not your role. Your role is just, you're an involved agency, you know, you got this thing circulated to you, and, you know, you could have done nothing, but that wouldn't be very responsible, in my opinion. So you met, you gave the applicant the opportunity to come here and respond, you gave the public the opportunity to comment, and now, you know, you can just say for the record, you know, how do you feel about those environmental issues, and do you feel that you know, is in support of a, not the planning board, but in support of an action to rescind seeker? You know, and you could say, whether you're in favor of that action or not, okay?
All right,
So.
well, that's, yeah, I think we're in favor of that action, sending seeker. Based on what went through tonight, what Karen said.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be a form, I mean, again, if you could, it's, because again, you're just gonna send
All right,
an
so.
email or a letter to the
that
planning
doesn't-
board, and that would
all
be the
right.
resolution to do that, to
Yeah.
actually send a letter, you
Mhm.
know, indicating what
Okay.
you wanna tell them.
All right. Okay, that's,
Does it have to be a formal motion?
no, it's not a.
Well, no, I would make a motion
All
to
right,
do
so I
that,
make a
but, yeah.
motion that we send a letter to the planning board in support of their action.
Of their decision to revisit
Decision,
this?
yes, to revisit
I'm
this.
sorry, in support of their actions
To-
in general, not
To
in.
revisit the seeker determination.
Rescind,
Rescind.
yeah,
uh,
Yeah.
Rescinding seeker.
seeker. All right.
I'll second that motion, Mike.
All in favor? Aye, all right. It's carried. All right, if there's no other business before us, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.